I'm just shocked at how many lies were told. Essentially, I walked you through the New York Times metadata and showed you that this woman had posted on X and essentially just like blared it out to the world.
Players in one of the ugliest Hollywood disputes in recent memory faced off in a New York City courtroom.
Blake Lively is spiraling as the court lays bare her deception, tearing apart her claims with Candace Owens' undeniable metadata receipts. Did she honestly believe she could hurl accusations at Justin Baldoni and come out of this without consequences? She had no idea her carefully spun sob story was riddled with holes, effortlessly shattered by cold, hard digital evidence. And the media? They devoured it like a pack of starving puppies. On December 21, 2020, the New York Times dropped a meticulously crafted report, a sob story planted with precision to push Lively's narrative. The timing? Far too convenient to be a coincidence. The media frenzy lined up so perfectly with her complaint that it was almost laughable how staged it all seemed. She wanted the world to see her as the victim, before anyone had the chance to question a single detail. But then came the ultimate twist. Candace Owens stepped in and tore the entire script to shreds. Owens didn't just throw shade, she demolished Lively's credibility. The proof? A metadata deep dive straight from the New York Times' own website, revealing that Lively's team was in cahoots with the press before her complaint even reached the legal system. She wasn't just playing the victim, she was directing the entire spectacle. The second this came to light, Lively should have packed her bags and vanished. But instead, she doubled down with even more desperate, cringe-worthy attempts to control the narrative. She went into full-blown PR overdrive, spinning her victim narrative through Hollywood's elite. Like clockwork, celebrities started crawling out of the woodwork to defend her. Organizations issued statements, and the whole thing turned into a carefully staged, crocodile tear spectacle. But here's the real kicker: after running to the press first, Lively had the audacity to demand a gag order against Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman. Let's say that again. She unleashed a media firestorm, then played the privacy card when it started blowing up in her face. The judge? Not having it. One look at this ridiculous request and it was tossed out. No gag order. No silencing Baldoni's side. No easy way out. Meanwhile, Owens came armed with cold, hard receipts, proving that Lively's team had everything locked and loaded days before her complaint even hit the system. While Lively put on a show, acting blindsided and devastated, she was secretly pulling the strings behind the scenes. But the moment this hit the public eye, her entire narrative crumbled faster than a poorly scripted Netflix reboot. Baldoni's team didn't waste a second. They immediately updated their lawsuit to include Owens's bombshell findings. Imagine being so terrible at faking victimhood that even a talk show host can fact-check you straight into a legal amendment. Brian Friedman took Owens's receipts and fired them straight into the case, proving to the court that Lively's sob story wasn't some organic plea for justice. It was a meticulously staged performance. Blake thought she could muzzle Baldoni's team with a gag order and waltz back into her tragic heroine act, but the judge shut that down in record time. She was the one who ran to the press first, orchestrated a smear campaign to wreck a man's career, and now that her web of lies was falling apart, she expected everyone else to stay quiet? Yeah, not a chance. The court didn't just reject her request, it made it painfully clear that she couldn't launch attacks and then hide behind legal barriers when things blew up in her face. And if that wasn't humiliating enough, her worst nightmare was unfolding. The new evidence was being taken very seriously. Thanks to Candace Owens' brutal takedown of her manufactured victim act, the court was forced to re-evaluate everything. The metadata exposed the truth. Lively's complaint wasn't some spontaneous plea for justice. It was carefully timed, coordinated with the media, and scripted before she even filed the lawsuit. And the second this evidence made it into court, her entire legal strategy collapsed. What was supposed to be an easy, slam dunk case against Baldoni now reeked of a premeditated smear campaign. And now, the moment of truth is almost here. This whole spectacle is about to officially go to trial. That means Lively won't be able to hide behind PR tactics anymore. No more spinning headlines, no more cherry-picking softball interviews, and absolutely no more using Ryan Reynolds' sarcastic tweets as a distraction. She'll have to sit in court, under oath, and explain why every shred of evidence paints her as a calculated, power-hungry manipulator. And let's be honest, the entire industry is watching every move. Ryan Reynolds, the living, breathing embodiment of a self-aware meme, somehow found himself dragged into his wife's courtroom disaster. And not in the stand by your woman kind of way. Nope. This man went from being Justin Baldoni's close friend to branding him a deranged predator overnight. Now, maybe it's just me, but doesn't that seem just a little suspicious? Seriously. Ryan, what happened? 1 minute, you're singing Baldoni's praises as an amazing collaborator. And the next, you're acting like he's the ultimate Deadpool villain? Let's break this down, shall we? Ryan and Justin weren't just casual acquaintances, they were tight. Fundraisers, handshakes, shared laughs, and perfectly staged Hollywood bromance photos. They were practically inseparable. And then, just like that, poof. A few months later, leaked private messages show Ryan flipping on Justin like he just discovered he was Gotham's real Joker. Now, unless Justin secretly kicked Ryan's dog, something much bigger was brewing behind the scenes. And let's be honest, we all know exactly what went down. Blake leaned in, whispered in Ryan's ear, and told him to pick a side. And since keeping his wife happy is basically a legally binding contract, probably signed in blood, he flipped on Justin faster than Hollywood cancels a fallen star. Loyalty? Gone. Common sense? Out the window. Ryan did what Ryan does best: perform. Only this time, his stage wasn't Twitter. It was a courtroom. But here's where it gets hilarious. The timing of Ryan's sudden epiphany about Baldoni? Absolute comedy gold. Because shockingly, his dramatic change of heart just so happened to perfectly align with Blake filing her complaint. What are the odds? One day, Justin is his talented, hard-working friend, and the next, he's some lurking menace? And conveniently, right when Blake needed a villain for her courtroom fairy tale. And let's not act like Ryan is some poor, clueless bystander in all of this. This is a guy who built his entire brand on sarcasm and self-deprecating humor. Yet the moment the internet starts roasting him, suddenly, he can't take a joke? Oh, but mocking Justin Baldoni in Deadpool scenes? That was totally fine, right? Ryan and Blake had zero issues sneaking jabs at Baldoni into their little projects, laughing it up at his expense. But now that the public sees through the whole charade, Ryan wants everyone to just forget how deep in this mess he actually is. And let's not forget, Ryan isn't just any actor. He's one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood right now. But here's the problem. Ryan's entire brand hinges on being likable. That's his thing. The internet adores him because he's funny, relatable, and doesn't take himself too seriously. But guess what? Getting exposed in a messy, staged PR takedown of a former friend? Not exactly great for the image. And let's talk about how the media reacted. Even TMZ, yes, TMZ, admitted that online sleuths and Owens's relentless digging were key in uncovering this whole disaster. Normally, outlets like to pretend they broke the story. But this time, even they had to give credit where it was due. Because this wasn't just another Hollywood, she said, scandal. This was full-blown legal deception, playing out in real time. Judge Lays J. Lyman had clearly had enough of Blake Lively's courtroom circus. So he finally stepped in and laid down the law. Both parties were ordered to stop blabbering to the press because, shocker, the case wasn't supposed to be fought in the pages of the New York Times or on Instagram. Blake had been desperately trying to control the narrative. But now, the judge made it crystal clear, this wasn't a Hollywood PR stunt. This was a real legal battle. And for someone who has built her career on looking effortlessly perfect in public, this was her worst nightmare. Hollywood loves a winner. But more importantly, Hollywood hates a liability. And right now, Blake Lively isn't just losing, she's radioactive. This lawsuit was supposed to be her big dramatic courtroom performance. But instead, she's flopping harder than a low-budget rom-com. And the worst part? The industry insiders, the powerful Hollywood names, the so-called friends she thought had her back? Yeah, they've all gone suspiciously quiet. Blake thought she could turn this into a Hollywood versus Justin Baldoni fight. Except, here's the problem. Nobody actually likes her enough to go down with her. In the beginning, she had a few ride-or-die supporters, the usual feminist activists. A couple of washed-up co-stars. But now? Crickets. Where's her army of Hollywood A-listers rushing to defend her? Where are the powerful producers and executives swearing that Baldoni is a monster? Nowhere. Because no one in Hollywood actually believes Blake Lively anymore. And they're too scared to publicly back her. And let's not forget Taylor Swift's unwilling cameo in this mess. Lively thought she could pull her billionaire bestie into the fray. But reports started swirling that Swift wasn't exactly thrilled about being dragged into a full-blown legal disaster. And who can blame her? No one wants to be associated with the Hollywood version of a messy group chat turned courtroom drama. The moment Blake tried to drag Taylor Swift into her mess, like a desperate woman pulling her best friend into a fight she started, Blake thought mentioning Taylor's name in her legal filings would make her untouchable. Reports are now swirling that Taylor Swift feels used, and wishes she'd never been dragged into this disaster. And honestly, she should feel used, because Blake wasn't looking out for Taylor. She wasn't trying to protect her. She was using her as a human shield. This is Hollywood 101, if you can't win the case, make it about something bigger. And Blake tried to turn her failing lawsuit into a "protect powerful women" movement by linking it to Taylor's name. But instead of getting more sympathy, she just pissed off one of the most powerful people in the industry. And instead of crying to the media or calling in favors from famous friends, Baldoni dropped a 168-page evidence nuke. And when people actually took the time to read it, they realized this wasn't just gossip. This was documented fact. Texts contradicting Blake's claims? Yep. Emails proving her timeline was staged? Absolutely. Proof that she was already planning this hit job before filing the complaint? 100%. This isn't just he said. She said. This is she lied. He proved it. Because if Blake Lively gets dragged in court for weaponizing media narratives, it changes everything for Hollywood. This case isn't just about one actress trying to ruin a co-star. It's about whether celebrities can keep using media manipulation as a legal tactic. If the court sets a precedent that using the press to destroy someone before an actual trial is illegal, then suddenly, every PR-driven scandal in Hollywood is under scrutiny. The same actors and influencers who casually drop bombshell accusations on social media with zero evidence might actually have to face consequences. And that's terrifying for people like Lively, who built their careers on playing the media like a fiddle. And speaking of careers, let's talk about how fast Blake Lively's reputation is tanking. She went from America's sweetheart to the villain of the internet overnight. Her Instagram comments? A war zone. People are clowning her in every tweet. And even her celebrity friends are suspiciously quiet. Remember when every A-lister was jumping to defend her at the beginning? Yeah, notice how no one is saying anything now. Even her closest Hollywood buddies seem to be slowly backing away, pretending they never knew her. And it's not just her social standing that's crumbling. Her career is straight up disintegrating. Studios hate controversy. And guess what they really hate? Actresses who lie in court. Blake was supposed to have a big Netflix deal lined up for 2025. But now? Silence. She was rumored to be in talks for a major fashion collaboration. But suddenly, that brand is conveniently looking for someone with a strong, positive public image. Even her longtime partnerships with luxury brands are reviewing their contracts. Translation: they're waiting to see if she survives this dumpster fire, or if they have to drop her like yesterday's trend. Hollywood is officially in panic mode. Because if this case blows up in Blake's face, it sends a clear message. Actors and actresses can't just play the "believe all women" card without actual proof anymore. And that terrifies the industry. Studios hate messy court battles tied to their big-budget films. Directors don't want actors bringing lawsuits to set instead of just showing up for work. And investors? They definitely aren't throwing money at projects that could be torpedoed by a drama queen with a grudge. But here's where it gets bigger. Some are saying this case isn't just Blake versus Baldoni, it's old Hollywood power versus the outsiders. Blake represents the elite Hollywood circle, the same one that's been controlling narratives for years. She's rich, connected, used to getting every advantage. She thought she could manipulate the press, the courts, and the entire industry to obliterate Baldoni. But Baldoni? He was never part of that club. No Hollywood dynasty, no billion-dollar connections, and absolutely no army of PR gurus to twist the narrative in his favor. Yet here he is, winning. And if this case ends with Baldoni clearing his name while Blake Lively's career goes up in flames, it proves one thing: Hollywood's old tricks don't work anymore. The real power isn't just in connections. It's in the truth. And Blake just learned that lesson the hard way. Oh, and let's talk about the money. Blake never expected to foot the bill for this entire circus. But now, she's hemorrhaging cash. Lawsuits aren't cheap. And defamation cases? They can financially destroy you if you lose. With Baldoni suing for a staggering $400 million. Even a settlement would cost her millions. That's before you factor in legal fees, PR teams, and damage control consultants scrambling and failing to repair her obliterated image. And if this trial really goes south, she could be paying out settlements for years. Then came the best part: the total shift in public opinion. Blake, who thought the world would rally around her as the poor, wounded actress taking on a powerful man, suddenly found herself branded as fake Lively. Social media? Merciless. The second Owens' receipts hit the internet, Blake and Ryan weren't seen as crusaders. They were exposed as manipulators. It was the PR backfire of the decade. And the most laughable part? Blake still tried to play the victim. Even as her own words, her own timeline, and her own media games were being exposed. She kept singing the same tired, fake tune, but no one was buying it anymore. Not the public, not the judge, and definitely not Baldoni's legal team. So what's next for Blake Lively? Probably irrelevance. She can try to reinvent herself as the misunderstood actress all she wants. But the public has moved on. Even if she somehow dodges major legal consequences, she'll forever be remembered as the woman who tried, and failed, to manipulate the court of public opinion. Hollywood forgives a lot, but it never forgives someone who gets caught lying this publicly. And if you loved watching Blake Lively's downfall unfold, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Because trust me, this mess is far from over.